Hi everybody, welcome to today's video. I'm very excited to be here today with Gamma Minus and specifically Jeremiah from the team. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about Rough Justice 84, what the game is about, and more on how the game has been developed. So I'm very excited to introduce you to my lovely friend Jeremiah, if you want to talk a bit more about the game.
Sure. Rough Justice is a neon noir board game inspired strategy game with puzzles, dice, and cards. You run a detective agency in the 80s, and you have to hire agents and fire them sometimes, and you just send them out to do cases. And these cases can be resolved by either doing puzzles or with dice rolls. And the dice rolls are dependent on the stats of your agents. Pretty straightforward. There's also a really deep conspiratorial story, which you'll get into. But yeah, that's the game right there.
Amazing. And can you tell me a bit more about Gamma Minus and the team that you guys have together?
Yeah, Gamma Minus is a small indie development studio that was founded in 2018. Rough Justice 84 is our first game. There's about 6 of us in the core team, although for the development of Rough Justice, we ballooned to about 22 people altogether. We had about 8 different 2D artists involved in it because there's lots and lots of 2D art. And we brought on some extra coders because there's so many different puzzles or mini games. So we're very excited. This is our first title, and we'll see what happens.
So obviously Rough Justice have been out for a while, but I was curious to know about the inspiration for the story of the game, because not only is it an amazing board game experience, like you were saying, but it's also got a very rich story to it, from my understanding.
I don't want to give too much away because I'm pretty sure Jamie, our narrative designer, is going to talk a little bit more in depth about the actual story. But it's a classic story to a certain degree with a big twist. You are Jim Baylor, and you've just gotten out of jail, and you are a disgraced cop. And you are running this detective agency and trying to keep your head above water, if you will.
Very cool. And was there anything specifically that inspired you guys to kind of take on this project as your first game at Gamma Minus?
Well, as a child of the 80s, I grew up with, Tango and Cash and, a lot of these 80s movies. And I just think the 80s are a wonderful, a great source of inspiration for a lot of games. And I think the idea of a detective game in the 80s, with as much neon as you can possibly, throw at the screen, it's definitely great.
Well, thank you so much, Jeremiah. This game looks incredible, and I know I've already had so much fun playing it myself, and I'm very excited for everyone else to see a little bit more of the narrative design and the music. So we're going to pass off to some of the other Gamma Minus team, and then we'll be back at the end of the video to wrap up. So enjoy.
Seneca City, the most corrupt city in all of America.
Feels like every day this city sinks further down the drain. Gone from skirmishes to out-and-out turf wars. I don't know where they're suddenly getting all this cash, but it don't bode well for the city.
Today marks the day as Seneca City is named murder capital of the U.S.
He is Jim Baylor, former super cop, framed for murder. Now he's back to clean up the city.
Rough Justice 84 takes place in Seneca City. It's a fictional city that's loosely based on New York. And we take on the role of Jim Baylor, who's a kind of former super cop who is framed for murder. But when new evidence arises that proves his innocence, we return to Seneca to find that crime is just completely out of control. So we team up with our old partner Hank, who is running a private security agency. Yeah, so it was definitely something that we looked into. I think obviously we wanted to find a good balance between kind of authenticity of the time period, but we were also researching, kind of popular culture from that time, and also this kind of very exaggerated version of the 80s. And then obviously there's a kind of 20th century World War II component to the history of our game as well. So obviously that was something that we had to be very respectful of and make sure that we did our research. So while I wouldn't say that it's necessarily a super realistic depiction of history, I think we definitely take fragments of that and use that to kind of enrich our story. Yeah, so there's always going to be, on any project, there's always a bit of a tightrope to walk when it comes to tone. So obviously when we're dealing with kind of these big 80s kind of imagery, it's very tongue-in-cheek, there's kind of an element of satire to it, it's very kind of fun and bold, and we don't take it too seriously, but at the same time there are elements to the game that are very serious and deal with very serious topics. As a Jewish person, I think it's really cool that we have a Jewish protagonist, and that features in the story in quite a kind of meaningful and prevalent way. I think it's always important when you're talking about these kind of subjects where there are very clear victims to kind of show the story from the victim's perspective, I think, and to really kind of honor and respect that. So for me personally, it was very personally gratifying to be able to work on a project where I could actually explore that a little bit. So yeah, that was something that I think had quite a profound effect on me, actually. Well, what was interesting with this project is that I actually had a lot of the art assets before I formulated the characters, so that was really useful in getting a sense of who they are. And the artists on our team were extremely talented, so there's so much kind of little hints and nuances in the way they look, whether it's a kind of smirk that they've got on their face or the clothes that they're wearing. So having that as a resource to kind of develop those characters was like extremely useful.
So Jim Baylor is our main character in Rough Justice 84. Jim is we called him like a super cop. He was a guy that was essentially incorruptible, whose moral courage and moral grounding was so unshakable, but not coming from a place of zealousness, but simply knowing that the right thing is always the right thing. And the thing that we did right from the beginning was we go, no, we have a very strong opinion against what our nemesis and the antagonists are doing. There is no leeway to say, oh no, actually what they're doing kind of logically makes sense. We just said, no, absolutely not. We are going to make these individuals as horrific as possible, and our stance on it is very clear cut. What they are doing is wrong in every conceivable way. And our characters, Jim Baylor and the agents and the player who runs the agents, are there to stop them. So I also play Hank Kowalski in Rough Justice. I think approaching Hank is as a character within the story, he provides a lot of information to the player. So there is an element of exposition from Hank's side that he has to convey a lot of information to the player so that the player can understand what's going on in the world, the story, how things are progressing, and also to sometimes maybe chastise the player when they haven't run the agency very well. With playing Hank, I tried to keep a lot of it very light, very upbeat, erring on the side of cynicism and being sardonic. As far as doing research, we wanted to make sure that absolutely everything that's in the world of Rough Justice had a historical basis for it being in there. So, and we talk about what are the clothes of this time period, what are the hairstyles, what is some of the common vernacular and common language and slang and words that people would use, to make sure that we were as accurate as possible and to give a sense of the time period and what's going on in the city at this time. So as far as like engrossing yourself in the time period, a lot of it, what we did was just to make sure that everything was accurate and authentic as possible, and I think we did a pretty good job of that.
My name is Damien Nagy, and I am the artistic director for World Justice. I remember that I first explored some video games from the 80s, but it was not the right direction because we were not making a retro game. It was a management game taking place in the 80s, and so it was my main direction to find. So how to make it look 80s but not retro. No pixel art. It was, I think, the main element that I didn't want for World Justice, because pixel art it fits too much with the retro gaming. We have so many different art styles in World Justice. I just noticed we have some 2D characters, some painted 2D characters, and 2D painted backgrounds. We have a 3D map. We have some items also 2D painted, and we have some 3D assets for the puzzle game. So I think very efficient and simple. I think we find pretty easily how to work. So first, the writer describes the character and imagine his background, and then someone was in charge to find some references regarding the character. So it was color scheme, haircut, clothes, and everything. And so we had all those references, and then the artist look at that and try to find the right pose for the character and to have this personality for the character, and then we polish it.
Hi, it's Ulf Jafar here. I'm the music composer for Rough Justice 84, and I also do lots of other music for trailers, for movies and TV shows and video games. I went to sort of an 80s phase again, where I had to watch movies like Beverly Hills Cops, Tango and Cash, Rain Man. So I enjoyed that moment a lot because these movies are great, and soundtracks obviously are amazing. So I was just like jamming, I was just like remembering the things I liked about the 80s music. I had to create my own template, my own, find the perfect instruments that will be used for the game, for the whole game's world. I took some time to sort of find the perfect instruments that will always stay in the whole soundtracks, So I just chose a few, softwares, instruments, guitars, and all that stuff. The limitation that creates creativity, So yeah, the more challenging part was just to find the right sound first, which we tried with the main theme. The main theme was like, here's the general idea of the whole sonic world of the game.
So I guess some of the news that's on the horizon, we just dropped a new patch, pretty major patch in fact, giving you complete overview, control of your whole team, so you can actually press M and you can get a nice map overview. And we've also, welcome to the future people, we've actually implemented an autosave functionality. I know, it's pretty impressive, but joking aside, the demo from Rough Justice 84 has just been released on Steam, and we are going to be releasing the Switch, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and Xbox versions in the fall.
Very exciting. Well, thank you so much, Jeremiah, and to the entire Gamma Minus team for talking with us today about Rough Justice 84. I hope you guys are excited to see the console release of the game and also try out the demo that Jeremiah mentioned is now out on Steam. And as always, if you want to support the development process, do make sure that you wishlist us on Steam and follow us on our various social media accounts. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Your name's clean now. Client don't like me, but with your name on the agency, that changes things.
Be the head of a security agency.
You got a task for me, boss?
Deal with repossession, fugitive recovery, and more. Advise your agents. Choose the right gear for the job and test their skills to successfully complete contracts. Manage your agency. Make the right decisions. Upgrade your agents. Assemble your team. Solve cases through puzzles, dice, and cards. With a mixture of logical, dexterity, and perception-based minigames.
Jim, we've got something to discuss. It's big.
Deliver rough justice.